3. That is the amount of buffs Huntress has received in her almost 9 years of being in Dead by Daylight. And everyone for that time has said she's pretty consistently an A tier killer until recently. She's dropped down to B. Now, is this bad? No, not really. B tier is a great place to be, especially in B+, like a few people put her, except everyone agrees on one thing. Huntress is B tier because of her camping strength. Welcome to the Entities Guide. Today I'm going to explain just why Huntress became a B tier killer, arguably a C tier without add-ons, and how we're going to fix this. Now we're going to start when Huntress was still somewhat A tier, and by that I mean when she last got buffed, 7.6.0. Not that long ago. Increased carrying capacity of hatchets from 5 to 7, and reduced windup time from 1 to 0.9 seconds. Not bad. Helps get hits around corners just a little bit faster, and this is coming off patch 7.3.0 a few months earlier, which buffed her reload from 4 to 3 seconds, making Iron Maiden a wasted perk slot. For those that don't know, although Iron Maiden's description is 50% faster lockers, it's 30% or 25% faster reload, and 30% of 3 seconds is pretty useless. In patch 7.5.0 with Alan Wake, we also got the FOV slider, so you could finally take off Shadowborn for those that wanted a wider FOV for flicking. Pretty good. Except this patch also put Mangled and Hemorrhage onto heal timers, making spreading out hits with her add-on Begrimed Head kind of meaningless. It's a small nerf in comparison, and no one really used that add-on anyway, so it's fine, and you can stack Infantry Belt to give you 9 hatchets, letting you go for more power hits, not reload as often to save on mobility for her weakest strength when moving around the map. There's no way behavior sees an issue with this, and oh my god, they instantly nerfed it without a PTB. So literally 3 weeks later, patch 7.6.2 rolls out, typically just bug fixes, and kills Infantry Belt and Leather Loop, completely changing them into granting haste for a few seconds. Except, haste is most impactful when you're in a chase. If you hit someone in a chase, they get a speed boost, and the haste is only long enough that instead of 5 seconds, you only get 3 seconds of haste, which is only 3%. You're a 110 killer, this does nothing. Alright, whatever. They'll revert it, right? It's been 2 years, nothing's changed. 7.7.1 Ultimate Weapon got nerfed from release, removing one of the best information perks in the game, and literally one of, if not her best perk of all time. 8.0.0 introduced some neat perks, nothing overwhelmingly great for Huntress, while nerfing 4 perks that were good for her, and buffing Sabotaging to make it even harder to hook people, the place where a killer is weakest. Small compensation on Borgo lighting not being blinding, DS stun being lowered, and Forgotten Ruins, a very good killer map being added. 8.1.0 introduced Finesse, making survivors literally have a hatchet inside them but still somehow miss. Buffs to Darkness revealed and I'm all ears, which is nice, except they also buffed Babysitter, which is incredible against 4.4 killers, and Resurgence, which makes them reset off hooks faster, which makes Huntress have to throw a hatchet back to get the mending hit at hook to make their healing proccers 0, which promotes camping. Oh, but this is also the update that brought the first 2v8, which has major repercussions, as the tiles from 2v8, which have higher walls naturally, start blending over to the 1v4 game mode, making hatchet hits harder from a distance. Small offset with 8.2.0 releasing Human Greed, which is then instantly punished with hook states becoming 70 seconds from 60, 10 extra seconds, which completely changed muscle memory for macro play hatchets, information on playing the maps well, and nerfed her good camping potential on a killer that doesn't have any mobility to not be a camping killer. And while perk buffs keep happening, a killer only gets 4 slots, while survivors have 16 to use. So every time something major like Resurgence buff hits the game, she gets punished 4 times as hard, while typically Hunty gets 5 seconds of slowdown with something like Deadman Switch and new aura reading options, which includes 8.4.0 when Tori Kane released with Shoulder the Burden, a perk that is vastly underutilized to an insane degree. Tokyo Ghoul drops in 8.6.0 with the Surrender option, which isn't a bad thing, I want to make that clear, I use it, but I do want to mention how bots are just insanely boring to play against and can know where the killer is through walls, so you can't mind game them, which as of 4.4 sucks. Babysitter gets nerfed in 8.7.0, or at least slightly reworked. Fog Vials drop in 9.1.0, which literally just blocks auras and vision, making it hard to aim. it doesn't affect any other killer but me. Streetwise and built to last get buffed, which again, Huntress is a 110 killer with no mobility, or gen defense is terrible, which isn't helped by behavior buffing the base kit unhook protections from 10 to 15 seconds. The endurance? Whatever. The haste? Put my legs behind my head and fuck me harder, I guess. Huntress is in a very unique spot compared to every other killer concerning perks as well. While Dead Man Switch is a very good slowdown perk, it especially shines on mobility killers like Blight who can force it on a specific generator. Huntress has to camp and just randomly gets a gen blockage. Might not be the most progressed gen, might not be the least, might be the middle one, who knows, you can't control that. And then you add on to a lot of the more basic M1-esque perks you just straight up can't use because all your hits should reasonably be with your M2, which removes like over half the perk pool. Eruption she can't use because Eruption relies on fast mobility, get downs frequently to catch up after kicking a generator. She again doesn't have no mobility, so she doesn't have time to go kick gens unless it's for something massive like Pop Goes the Weasel. And finally, let's cover the two things that did her in most, that happened throughout these updates. New map tiles spawning in, adding more and more clutter to maps, while also increasing the walls on tiles for ease of 2v8 conversion. And the pallet density update. Now yes, Huntress can hit over pallets. It's pretty funny, all things considered, and sometimes you hit people while being stunned. But that doesn't change the amount of stuff that gets put in the way. Every pallet needs objects around it. Objects around it have hitboxes. Those hitboxes never make sense and actively are taller than they seem. This is Toba Landing main building. Why is there an invisible wall here? It's air. And look, I know a lot of people will find it hard to believe Huntress needs buffs. There's two kinds of Huntress players. New players who decimate new lobbies because she's easy to pick up but somewhat weird to counter. And me, the 10,000 matches played of her that loves to slug and gets accusations. But the average survivor skill has gotten a lot better than 6 to 7 years ago. The average Huntress skill has also risen, but has also stagnated due to map changes, perk changes, and base gameplay. You want Huntress players to stop camping? Help her everywhere else. And with that, I propose a heavy nerf to her, 2 decent buffs to killer itself, and some add-on changes. Do I think any of these will actually happen? Probably not, but it's fun to theorize. Huntress can no longer use hatchets at hook. I know, insane. Makes barbecue worse for snipes, but makes it possible to unhook against her in EGC. However, this comes with 2 different compensations for killer as a whole, and yes, most killers in my eyes should lose the option to use powers at hooks. But the offset is the return of hook grabs. No longer can a survivor unhook in your face and force a trade. You can grab them for an insta-down. Incredible. And a small nerf to agitation, but the nerf is offset with that part becoming base kit, making hooking more worthwhile in an age of hook activation perks and need for speed. Good players will know a hook in key areas, and agitation is every killer's best perk, or at least top 10 for that reason. For Huntress, it is literally her best perk slot. Huntress herself needs very few buffs, and it's mostly add-on changes. Shiny Pin becomes base kit, increasing her walk speed while holding a hatchet by 5%. Shiny Pin gets fully reworked, and no add-on should buff her holding speed ever again. Bandage Half becomes base kit, reducing her cooldown by 10% after throwing a hatchet. Oak Half gets lowered to 10%, and Bandage Half gets reworked. You should not keep any add-ons that lower her cooldown after this. That is it for base kit changes, not including like very specific add-on stuff. Unless behavior wants to add mobility to her power. I've had the idea, similar to Knight, when he does large guard trails he gets haste. For Huntress, I would appreciate it if the further the hatchet hit, she got haste to catch up, or if it's a snipe to go start a new chase. It rewards skill, but it's also very map dependent, so I'm not sure if it's a good idea, and I would need to properly test it. As for more specific add-ons, Leather Loop and Infantry Belt get reverted to what they were. I really don't know why it got changed besides non-Huntress players whining. Glowing Concoction becomes an iridescent add-on. Self-explanatory. Soja's Patet drops to purple rarity and gets reworked into showing the hatchet arc. The rarity can also be swapped to brown for learning purposes and move a few other add-ons up. Iridescent Head gets reworked into downing survivors from 20 meters away, outside Huntress's terror radius, but lowers flight speed by 25%. This is to make it impossible to perfectly offset the difference perfectly with Rose Root for the flight speed and make it what Iridescent Head is supposed to be. Clip farming and achievement grinding. Rusty Head gets reworked. It is literally begrimed head, but only applies mangled for 10 seconds less. Why do we have this? And that's it! The purpose of these changes is to make camping worse for Huntress and encourage more add-on variety, while making her chase better for weaker maps that behavior keeps filling with clutter, like Topa Landing, and Nostromo, and the recent changes to Coldwind, and nerfing certain tiles on Macmillan for Survivor so it helps every single other killer in the game except Huntress because it removes the hatchet slot that I personally use to get free hits. Now, do I think Behavior even has eyes on changing Hunty right now? No, she's doing just fine. I just want her to be A tier again for the average player. She's already S tier for me. But Behavior has had a really interesting fascination with giving every killer a ranged power. I don't think people have noticed because we're all focused on dash slop, but every single killer of like the past year has basically had a ranged ability in some format. Now, is this trend going to continue? Maybe. Do I think the killer that literally only has ranged as her thing should probably get a buff to compensate against every single other semi-ranged killer? Yes. But I also think Behavior needs to focus on Hag and Trickster first. Interested in what other people think for Hunty. I love her. Anyway, I don't actually know how to end this. I'm like trying to think because I don't know how else to end this video. The subscribe thing. Isn't that a thing? Proven data? I don't fucking know. Subscribe. Thumbs up. I love subscribers.